welcome everybody to the Pound for Pound Sports Show. I'm Nick Eustace.
I'm Jason Eidsmo, sitting in for Darren Anderson. Darren is actually training killer whales today, so hopefully everything works out for him so he can make it back next Saturday.
And we're also joined by
Ralph DeLoyan.
Thanks so much for being with us, everybody. I want to throw out our sponsor's name, rbcardsandhobby.com. Check them out on Facebook/rbcards. I also want to throw out pfpsports.com. That's our website. We're updating it every day, always fresh. We're doing a model search, so if anybody's interested out there, contact producer at pmlbmedia.com. Our phone lines are open, 877-405-1717. And I also wanted to point out, stay tuned after this show because we're doing a totally different show right afterwards. It's a live stream, a lot of commentary about a lot of stuff going on this week. But first, I want to jump right in to our first segment. We have a special interview, a special guest. She is the president of Invicta FC. Shannon Knapp, they do a ton of women's MMA. They develop a lot of great talent out there, and they're doing a lot of big things that's picking up a lot of steam. We're joined by Shannon Knapp. Shannon, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. Oh,
it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us. Shannon, I was doing a lot of research and obviously, we've been big fans of Invicta for a little while. We do a lot to promote women's MMA. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that they're definitely coming up, and there's a ton of talent out there, and they have a lot to offer. And you guys actually provide an amazing forum for that. I also read that you've been a part or involved in one way or another with King of the Cage, WFA, IFL, Affliction, Strikeforce, and UFC. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you're no stranger to promoting. I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, it's a long list, but yes.
It's a long and prestigious list. I was going to say, you're no stranger to promoting out there, are you?
No, I've been in the space, I think, I hate to say this, but I think it's going on 12 years now.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's incredible.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, from start to finish. I mean, does it blow your mind to see how far the sport of mixed martial arts has come just in your tenure?
Yeah, it really does. And it's very exciting to have been part of that. And now to take all that experience and knowledge and apply it to the new movement for the female athletes, because I'm a huge advocate for the sport and for the athlete.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's you guys are really doing a great job over there. I was wondering what or whose idea was Invicta, and how did it all come to fruition?
It was basically both my business partner, Janet Martin, and we came to the idea together. She had been doing some research studies, for a thesis or a graduate program, and she had been studying, the sport, the female athlete, and things like that. And I was just, was at that time when Strikeforce had just purchased. There was a lot of panic set in through the female athletes about, everybody had that perception that Zuffa didn't, support the female athlete.
Right.
So we had met. Actually, Janet was with another promotion at that time, and I was helping Marloes Koenen, and she had met, to talk to me about Marloes, and as we started the conversation, we realized that there was such a need for something, and then it was off to the races from there.
It's amazing. It's funny because I find it a little ironic that the term Invicta is actually a Latin word. It means invincible or incomparable. I figure that's pretty appropriate considering you guys do something that basically nobody else does and specialize only in women's MMA and bringing up that talent, right?
Yeah, and that's why we chose the name. And of course the Phoenix, you're probably familiar with the Phoenix in our
right.
logo and stuff like that. So it all kind of goes together and it makes sense. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I noticed that, obviously you guys are building a brand like everybody else, but now you find yourself in the position where you guys actually have Olympic medalists that are actually competing under the Invicta FC brand. What do you think that does for the legitimacy of your organization?
I think it helps, of course, but I don't think it's the be-all and the end-all of everything. I think that every female that is competing under the banner is important and brings something, to the sport itself for the females. So it definitely helps, but I think that every day, every female athlete makes a difference. So. Oh
yeah, no question. You literally have athletes. Top tier athletes coming from all different types of discipline. It's not just Olympic style wrestling, but it brings legitimacy just in the sense that all these Olympic athletes now are looking for a home. It really goes to show that MMA is really coming up, and there's actually money to be made now, and a place to go for Olympic caliber athletes now, not just in wrestling but judo as well. Everything really.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, boxing, you could look at every aspect of it. I think the thing is that I think if you put on good matchups, that technically skilled, sound athletes against each other, then I think it all brings something great to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. It was funny because on the Olympic medalist part, real quick, if you look, Sarah McMahon's one of the amazing fighters that are fighting under your banner now, and it's funny because if you look at her picture, she looks so sweet and innocent, and then you look at her credentials and you're like, my God, this girl's a killer out there. It's amazing.
Sarah is very talented, and I will tell you that Sarah has moved on to Strikeforce now.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
boy.
It was a mutual agreement for her to move on. Yeah, I think Sarah, I think the end result is everybody's gunning for Rhonda that's
Right.
sitting at the top of the hill now.
Right.
So, I think it's a logical move for Sarah when she has family and you don't know how many years she's going to continue to compete. So we were all in agreement, and yeah, it just happened I think a month ago or less.
A little bit less than a month ago. Well, you know what? To counteract that, you guys actually got Sarah Kaufman from Strikeforce, although she just got injured in training camp. How frustrating is that for you guys?
It would have been really frustrating if there was, no way, no great replacement, but we had a great replacement. We had on the first card we had Leslie Smith and Caitlin Young that fought to a draw, which it was
Right.
It was an amazing fight.
I've seen it.
So yeah, so we rematched that fight.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a suitable replacement. Now, if you look at the card itself, I mean, go on InvictaFC.com, everybody. You guys can check out the fight, the streaming and everything like that. I mean, you guys really do have a lot of depth and a lot of people that you can kind of move upward and finagle a card a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I think we're working every day to build that depth. There's depth. I say this: depth by definition is there. There are a ton of girls that want to fight. When you kind of get up into the upper echelon sport, that's where it gets really thin. But we have some amazing talent that's coming up through the amateur ranks now and making their way up into, the pro levels. So I think, that's the process of growing it, and it's getting better and better all the time.
Absolutely. Shannon Abb joining us from Invicta FC. I want to remind people that we're doing some streaming right now on pfpsports.com. You can see the live interview. And speaking of streaming, you guys do plenty of streaming on your own homepage, right?
Yeah, we sure do. Since the beginning, it was always, to me, very logical to get our brand out there. And for it to reach the masses was to use the Internet and to stream the product and, give it away for free.
Yeah, I mean it's been a really positive thing for your promotion. I mean, you guys have been. I mean, you guys have been faring pretty well with that so far.
Yeah, so far.
So
no,
far.
our numbers are incredible.
Yeah.
We're extremely excited about the response. I've never seen this happen before as well. That we're going on our third show, and we're just not here in the United States. I mean, we've moved into a position of the premier women's league, across the world. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys have picked up a lot of steam in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, I think it just goes to show you what you guys have is an amazing product out there.
Well, I can tell you we're feeling the growing pains. That's for sure.
I think
it's a good problem and a good pain to have. But yeah, I mean, we went fast, 0 to 60, and very short time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going that fast, I'm sure there's no shortage of drama and hurdles to overcome when you're dealing with any kind of business. I wanted to know just with in light of the recent streaming success, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to continue in that direction. Are you guys currently in search of a TV deal, or is that part of the future plans for Invicta?
We have just kind of started that process. I mean, we've had some offers, and some that we're entertaining, but if you get too what's the word I'm looking for? Too anxious.
Right.
And you feel that, or desperate,
Yeah.
Maybe desperate's a better word, then you start yourself into these alignments and these partnerships that really are not advantageous to us as a company or to the athletes.
Yeah.
We're gonna take in our time. I think 2013 we'll make some announcements and, finalize some things, but right now we're still being very cautious about our next move.
No, I think it's a smart thing. I mean, there's no rush. I mean, there's no shortage of, regional promotions everywhere you go. I mean, what you guys have is something special. I'd hate to see anybody with that kind of success this early on, rush anything and bring that train down. I was also looking, it's funny because if you look and a lot of the promotions, I mean, we always like to talk about a lot of cash grabbing going on with regional promotions, but that's not the case with Invicta. I mean, you guys actually have bonuses for fighters, fight of the night, submission of the night, social media bonuses. I mean, Invicta really does try to take care of the fighters, don't they?
Yeah, and we run contests and things like that to help. People think, it's all just this marketing ploy for the promotion, but we also put some of these things in place to help the female athlete, to educate her in getting herself and building the brand, helping her to get more comfortable. If you put a competition out there and you add a money value to it, it makes an athlete feel not so vain about pushing herself.
Yeah, sure.
So,
no, I mean,
go ahead. We try to make that different.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think when you make everything, I mean, there's incentives for people out there. I mean, people get hungry out there. Also, you guys recently cross-promoted with Japan. I mean, it's an amazing culture when it comes to combat sports. What was it like cross-promoting with Japan?
It's very exciting for us because our commitment has been that we're going to put on the best sets, all over the world from all the talent. So to form that alliance and alignment is huge for us because there are a lot of talented female athletes there. Monday we're going to make another announcement on a country that we're working with a promotion, to in an alignment like that. So, that's part of the process of being able to make those connections and put on the best matchups in the world.
That's great. And you guys are going to make that announcement on Monday, you said?
Yeah.
Can we find that on the website, invictafc.com?
Yeah, you sure can.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, it's not earth-shattering or shaking, but it's definitely another alignment that helps us in the global process of, finding the talent that's out there and providing the best matchups that we can.
Oh, absolutely. What's funny is when you mention finding the talent and the matchups, I mean, just the fact that you guys are a premier, I consider you a premier organization just in the fact that you guys bring in quality athletes and you do quality shows. I mean, do you have a lot of female athletes just from around the country and around the world inquiring about how they get on one of your cards in Kansas City?
Oh, yeah. I love it because, Janet Martin handles all the matchmaking, but, we get it from both ends. I mean, they contact Janet constantly. They not successful there. They contact me, But I understand that. I've been in the business and I was a matchmaker, striker, so.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, and it's especially with us being that top tier for the female athlete in terms of an all-female organization, we get it double. So.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt about that. Obviously you've been around the game for a while. I mean, you've seen women's MMA when it was nothing. I mean, you've even seen men's MMA when it wasn't mainstream. What was it like back in the day when women's MMA was taboo and it was just something that people they weren't really sure what they thought about it? What was it like for women back then? For people who don't know.
You go back then.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be really honest because. My career has been based 95% of it working with men. Mm-hmm. And, so until I was with Strikeforce was really the first time that I really worked with a female athlete. So, to me it was kind of it existed, we were aware of it, but I didn't work in promotions that, had female athletes up until that point. So, I didn't know a lot. Yeah. But that right there is enough to tell you that, it was years behind.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, elevated enough that, it was every common knowledge that we talk about.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So, but, it's amazing to see where the whole sport itself has, come from over the past 10, 11 years.
Yeah, no, it really is staggering. I mean, you went from, we talk about it here every week. I mean, you went from a period of time where, guys had to take fights. Otherwise, they didn't make any money. They got no notoriety. And now you see fighters telling you who they're not going to fight and, when they're going to fight. And it's amazing how that's changed.
And to me, as I look in at it, it's pretty much the same thing that, I saw years ago with the men. I feel like the women are about 10 years behind.
Yeah.
In the way that you evaluate it and do your analysis of where it's at, where it's headed, where it's going.
Right.
I look at it now as our upper echelon for the females is like the Randy Couture's, the Boss Rutens, the Ken Shamrocks, right. At that level, at that point in time. And now these new that are coming up through the ranks as the amateurs, now you're looking at more your hybrids, I call them, that are coming in that next wave of, that top-tier talent coming through.
Well, yeah, no, that's very appropriate that they're hybrids, because that's exactly what they are. Meanwhile, they're not coming from a time where there was no money or notoriety to be gained from any of this,
Yeah, and I'll tell you this is there are a lot of their lack of opportunities is what has created this situation for them to be so far behind. They even have it's different now, of course, but they struggled to find gyms to train in.
Right.
Guys didn't want to train with them. So managers didn't want to manage them because there's no money in it.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate, because it's really comes down to money. It's not from a talent standpoint. I've gone to straight jiu-jitsu tournaments, and some of the best technique I've ever seen to come from the women's side.
See, I agree with you. I'm noticing that too.
Yeah.
I'm being educated every day.
Oh, sure.
Because, like I said, this is a whole new thing for me because I've always worked with men. So, yeah, it's amazing to me that I'm going to step out there and say that some of these females are better jiu-jitsu practitioners than most of the men.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's genetics or what it is, or gender, but definitely.
I say hips. I want to throw this out there real quick before they cut us off. We're going into break. At Shan Knapp, it's ShanKnapp, Facebook.com/Shan Knapp. Invicta FC 3 at Memorial Hall in Kansas City, Saturday, October 6th. Buy tickets or watch the stream on Invicta FC. Shannon, you guys do an amazing job bringing integrity to the sport, and I just want to thank you so much for being on our show.
Oh, thank you for having us. It takes each and every one of you that helps us to be successful. So we thank you for the support.
It's an absolute pleasure. Have a great day. Shannon Knapp, everybody. Another show immediately after, also streaming. Totally different, so don't be shy. Check us out. I also want to throw out there, if Darren, you're listening at this point in time, wherever you're at, we are having a blast, and I hope you are too, wherever you're at, buddy. Can't wait to see you again. Guys, we got a lot of stuff going on here this week in mixed martial arts. I say that every single week. One of the top stories that I saw that I was by far the most excited about was the fact that Lyoto Machida and Dan Henderson were, I guess they're going to fight, and that's going to decide the next title shot, basically.
Right.
Dana White, he seems a little irritable lately when he talks about last-minute replacements and things like that. And although he did sound irritable, he did bring up a good point in that, you have to look at what happened to Rashad Evans. When you're on the shelf, you have an opportunity to fight, and for whatever reason it doesn't come to fruition. Next thing you know, you might find yourself waiting a year and a half before the next shot comes, if it even comes at all. So he says, hey, we're done with this. This is what's going to happen. Winner gets a shot. I want to get your guys' opinion initially. I'll start with you, Jason. What do you think about this fight? Do you have any early predictions? Is it intriguing for you? How do you feel about that?
I'm very excited for the fight, actually. I think it's going to be a really good fight. Machida, my early prediction is Machida, I think, is going to take it. With Dan Henderson, of course, you can never count him out.
I know. It's tough.
I like the fact that they're putting these two up against each other to fight for the title next. I really think that it's a great idea, and it's a fight that all the fans are going to enjoy, that's for sure.
Yeah, very interesting fight. Ralph, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a very decisive way to make a fight. It's the way it should be. I'm considering everything that's happened with John Jones and Dan Henderson being hurt. That puts him out a couple weeks or months, rather. And you got Machida out here who just passed on the title shot. I wonder if he's actually hoping that John Jones loses, so he doesn't have to go against him and then have to get slept out again. So
it's an interesting idea.
You got Dan Henderson. He's a big, heavy-fisted guy. He's definitely. I'm wondering if Lyoto's how he's gonna want to fight that, and how Dan Henderson's gonna want to incorporate that big right hand that he loves to throw.
Yeah. No, it's interesting too, because I find myself thinking about the stylistic part of it, and that obviously it's really hard for. It's really hard for anybody to make an early prediction, but stylistically, you got to wonder where Dan Henderson's going to find. He's going to try and find a home for that right hand, obviously. Will it happen? That's the X factor. Will he land it? Will he not land it? For me, that's going to be what decides the fight. I don't think he's going to be able to tie Lyoto up in a clinch. And then again, Dan Henderson's susceptible to straight combinations, and that's what Lyoto throws best with knockout power. So very intriguing matchup. I think at this point in time they're probably perfectly matched. Those guys are arguably number 1 and 2 contender for that shot at 205. And on top of that, if you don't have this fight happen right now, then with Dan Henderson waiting for the next title shot, you've got him not fighting for a year and a half or better.
He's not a young guy anymore either.
41.
He's got to get it while the getting's good, because in a couple of years he might not be able to fight. He might not be able to fight the same level anyways.
Absolutely, and history has shown that the I'm a big believer in ring rust, but it hasn't shown very useful for Dan Henderson. The last time he had a long layoff, of course he lost to Jake Shields at
Right.
185. I mean, people blame the weight cut, they blame this and that, but I can't help but to think that ring rust had a small part in that, don't you?
Right, it had to have something to do with that. I agree with you.
I would definitely like to see that fight again when Dan Henderson doesn't have that ring rust on him, because I believe that he can beat Jake Shields another
I think
time.
he can too, and you know what? Nobody talks about that first round. I mean, Jake Shields, he looked scared to death. I mean,
Yes.
he was one shot away from going to sleep. So, you know, I'm not trying to be a Dan Henderson mark or anything like that. I'm just calling it like I see it. Yeah, no, you know what? On another note, just before we kick this story, the UFC always gives people the fights they want to see, and that's what I love. This is a great example of that. We're not going to have guys sitting on the shelf. We're going to make them fight. And
Exactly.
We're going to answer all the questions. So I don't think you can ask for much more than that. Strikeforce, apparently they're not immune to the injury bug either. Frank Mir just came out this week that Frank Mir, I guess he hurt his leg. I didn't hear exactly what he tore or what he hurt. I just heard that he hurt his leg.
Right.
And that obviously he's not going to make the card. The ironic part is that Daniel Cormier is still on the card, so it looks like they're trying to find him a suitable replacement. One of the guys that wants to throw his hat into the mix is Fabricio Werdum. First off, I think he's a definitely a suitable replacement. He's been eyeing the title shot. He's been, you know, seems like everybody's cut out of that same mold in the UFC. They're always eyeing the title instead of the guy right in front of them. But to me, as far as Fabricio goes, to justify that title shot, I think he needs a win over another credible top 10 opponent. Cormier is widely regarded. Some people have him ranked as high as the top 5. Maybe not top 5, I don't know, but certainly top 10. This should fit the bill. I mean, don't you guys think that would be a good matchup?
I agree. I think that it's a great matchup. I like to see Werdum fight somebody, you know, before he starts thinking title, because I do think that down the road that he does deserve a title shot. But
sure.
I agree. I think that this is a great matchup. I'm really bummed actually because I wanted to see Cormier Mir. I'm a big Mir fan. I wanted to see that fight, and I'm really bummed that it's not going to happen now.
Me too. How do you feel about that, Ralph?
Well, I like to see Mir. Mir's one of my favorite fighters and always has been, but I definitely think that Werdum would go in there and he's going to steamroll him if you put Werdum in there. Especially, look at his credentials. You got a guy that's Tap Fedor, give him that credit. The guy's been in numerous jiu-jitsu tournaments around the world and just owned everybody. And, I mean, I can't say anything else other than I'm really biased because I love Werdum. That guy's awesome.
Yeah, you know what's funny, too, is that you talk about Werdum and you talk about, you know, arguably one of the best guards in all of not just the heavyweight division, but all of UFC. And I would have liked to see him and Frank Mir see who has the better guard. Frank Mir is the guy that's also in that conversation.
I agree. I think it would have been a really, really interesting. I wonder if it would have been one of those fights, though, that both of them ended up trying to stand the whole time.
You know, that's a very interesting question, too. And to be honest with you, I don't like when Frank Mir tries to stand for too long, especially at this point in his career.
It depends on who it's against.
Yeah. Cormier, the thing about Cormier it scares me just because if you're not a Cormier fan or you're a fan of whoever he's fighting, the fact is that guy improves leaps and bounds every single time you see him, particularly in the striking department. I mean, he's no longer regarded as just a Olympic caliber wrestler.
Right.
You know, so it's an interesting matchup nonetheless. I'm glad he doesn't have to go on the shelf and they're not going to scrap this fight. I mean, there's still plenty of time left. I think Werdum's definitely a suitable replacement. I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. I hope that's the one that they set up. I think that'd be good.
Seems unanimous across the board.
Yeah.
So that takes it.
For Werdum.
Yeah, no, I'm lobbying for Werdum, absolutely. I mean, especially if it's a difference between them having the fight and not having the fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm for Werdum.
Beautiful.
King of the Cage. They just I guess they're signing with a new cable network. It's actually one that I've never heard of, but then again, I don't have Comcast and I don't have Time Warner.
Right.
So that doesn't mean anything. I mean, those are huge cable companies and a great place for anybody who wants to show fights, really. I mean, it's a big step up for King of the Cage. Do you think this could be, with the right TV deal and with the right backing, could they be as viable as, say, Strikeforce in the next couple years?
Well, I think that if they were going to do that, they would have to get a TV deal that everybody has. They would have to. Now, do you think that they didn't sign a deal with something that all cable companies have because they wanted more money or because nobody else was interested?
That's a good question. And, speaking to Shannon from Invicta, I mean, they find themselves in a similar predicament. I mean, do you take what deal's on the table? What's the right deal for you and your promotion?
Right.
Obviously, you don't want to, be in business with a bunch of people who are just looking for a cash grab.
Exactly.
You want to have some kind of integrity, I'm assuming.
My guess is the problem is that they're probably trying to lock him into a really long deal that they're not interested in doing. But if they could find something for not a whole lot of money, for maybe just a year deal or something like that, just to get their name out there, get people used to them, because more people are going to watch their fights when more people know they're fighters. That's how you get people to watch your fights, as more people know your fighters. And I think if they could have found a deal with that all the cable companies have, I think it would have been better for them.
No, I completely agree with you.
But I also think it's harder to find TV deals nowadays that people are actually showing that they're moving from watching TV and paying these insane cable bills
I know.
to actually just streaming like people are doing now on our site. You're looking at guys like, I don't want to go watch a lot of this stuff on TV. I hate commercials.
Yeah.
Actually, I just read something in the news the other day that's 99% of people 2 years ago had cable. They had TV lines going into their houses. Now, I think it's down to like 92%, and all you're getting is internet connection to people's houses. It's all you need now.
No, I completely agree, and look no further than our site for the latest technological advances. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what half of them are, but they're there. Trust me. We are streaming live on that same site, pfpsports.com. We're going to do a subsequent show right after this. Coming up next, we're going to do our Twitter segment. We got some questions we want to ask you, and we're going to cover UFC 152 on ESPN Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Got to make a quick correction there. Darren is indisposed at the moment. I am joined by...
I'm Jason Eidsmo, once again filling in for Darren Anderson, who is training killer whales today, so hopefully everything works out for him. We're hoping for you, buddy.
And who else are we with?
And I'm Ralph DeLoyan, field reporter for PFP. You can catch me at Ralph PFP Sports on Twitter.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, we're already in the third segment. I can't believe how fast time flies. We had a couple more stories we wanted to get to real quick before we jump into the Twitter segment. One of the things I saw, Freddie Roach. I know if Darren were here, he God only knows what kind of jokes or what kind of popsicle stick jokes he'd be throwing at you. But Freddie Roach, yes, we are a fan. But as you all know, Chavez Jr. did lose that fight last weekend. He's unhappy with Chavez Jr. just because I guess the report is that he failed to follow instructions during the fight.
What a surprise.
Yeah, big surprise there.
Yeah.
He claims that Chavez Jr. blew off training and practices. He also tested positive for marijuana, so we're waiting on the decision from the Nevada State Athletic Commission after that. He also says Chavez Jr. didn't follow instructions. He wanted to either train at home or not at all. And actually, a lot of people witnessed Chavez Jr. listening to a senior there in the crowd as opposed to his corner.
Yes, I noticed that too when I watched.
Very ironic, which by the way, I some other people are saying that he didn't listen to either one of them. He just went out and did his own thing anyway. So it was a big train wreck out there. I want to ask you guys, does Freddie Roach and his camp, do they deserve the blame for Chavez Jr.'s loss? I mean, they're catching some flack for Amir Khan, and camps lose fights from time to time. It
Exactly.
happens. But is Freddie Roach to blame for all this?
No, the bottom line is, you can't fight. He can't fight the fight for the guys.
Right.
He's going out there. He's telling them what to do. Now, whether they do it or not is the same thing in other sports. A lot of it falls on the head coach or the manager or whatever. But the bottom line, he gives them a plan. He tells them what to do. Now, if he's not going to do it, what else can you do?
Right.
The only thing I blame Freddie Roach for is getting involved with somebody who maybe doesn't have the discipline of a fighter that he would, the discipline that he would hope the
Right.
fighter has. And maybe he thought that he could turn that around. Maybe not. Obviously, he couldn't.
Excellent
so
point.
maybe it's Freddie Roach's fault for getting involved with Chavez Jr. because he's never been known as the most disciplined fighter.
Yeah, that seems to be the
Or
knock.
trainer.
Right.
However, though, look at who it is. It's Chavez Jr. He's looking to his dad, who is his main idol. Not only that, he's a title holder, and he's been doing
Right.
this his whole life. Not only that, he's promoting his whole life. Yeah, I mean, I can understand where you're in the ring and you're throwing, and yes, Freddie Roach taught you, and he's been doing everything for you to make you solid. However, when you hear your dad's voice and you're in a ring and you know that that's a creditable voice to listen to,
Right.
I mean, you can almost not listen to it.
Yeah, no, both great points. I mean, the fact is, Freddie Roach can't be blamed for anything that somebody does. He can't go in there and duck and bob and weave and throw punches. He can only show you how to do it and train you hard. If you don't show up, what else can you do? Secondly, why doesn't Chavez Jr. Just listen to Senior? Why isn't? I mean, he's a legend in the sport himself, and if he's shouting out why is he not training his son?
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
That's a great point. Why is he not? If he's going to shout out instructions, then he should be training him. If not, if you're sitting in the crowd, shut up and let the trainer do it. Is the way I look at it.
Right. And what's funny is obviously I'm assuming that if you have a family member or a friend in the ring, it will be very hard for you not to show favoritism and maybe I mean, you see guys in the very back row shouting instructions,
Exactly.
let alone the guys sitting next to the cage of the ring. It doesn't matter if it's UFC or boxing, but the fact of the matter is, if you're going to be shouting and you're going to be a disruption, I mean, you should be carrying the bucket and the stool.
That's a great point.
That's the question. Why isn't he in his son's corner?
I would be very shocked if he wasn't very sometime very soon. I mean, this doesn't seem very. It's
Is
just
he
not,
training anybody though? What? Maybe he doesn't have the discipline to be a trainer.
Maybe it's hard to say.
know?
I don't know that he has.
I wonder if there's any rules against, because he's promoting that fight too, right? The Golden
Right.
Boy Entertainment. So
Right.
I'm wondering if there's an actual, like, you're not allowed to promote it as well as be in the corner of a guy. That could be very biased, kind of like
interesting point, too.
gambling
That's a
on
good point.
baseball or something like that.
It could be. We never know. But I also think it's kind of what you see when guys get a little bit of fame and notoriety. And
Yeah.
this seems to be the guy that, I'm not saying special concessions are being made. I'm just saying that we don't talk about weight when we're on HBO, and
Yes.
we get 2 days to make weight sometimes in case we can't make it the first day.
Another thing about this fight, right after the fight, they were talking about rematch. Now, I don't know if they're still talking about that. What
Crazy.
did Chavez Jr. do that made anybody think he does,
Excellent
except
point.
lose every single
Excellent.
round and then knock him down in the final
Yeah.
round? He did nothing that showed me, he's going to take him.
might have
next
stole
time.
the 12th. Yeah.
He lost every round. He looked like he had no chance of winning that fight until he knocked him down in the last round. I don't understand why anybody's talking rematch.
Yeah.
Well, because it's boxing. They have nothing else to talk
Yeah.
about other than Mayweather-Pacquiao.
That guy's
I mean,
a draw. Look at what they did in Thomas and Mack. I mean, the guy's a draw.
There you
Yeah.
go. I mean, it's a name. That's kind of what you have to do right now with boxing. They don't have too many other things. I mean, he's wanting to go to Russia to fight rather than be here. He
Right.
gets a bigger draw that way. Other fights here, I mean, there's just nothing to push other than Pacquiao Mayweather. And then you look at you see Chavez's son. Everyone's like, oh, we could be closer to Chavez,
Right.
so we'll go for him.
Excellent.
Mad props to Martinez too in that fight for fighting. After the 7th round, he could have just cruised. He had that game, and you see a lot of fighters, and you see that in MMA a lot too. When once you get past the halfway point, when you're winning decisively, you just
cruise
take off
control
and you
and
go
we're
cruise
gone.
control.
Yeah.
He did not. He engaged every single round, including the last round, and he fought to win that fight.
And that's what you want to see.
he did.
Exactly. I will watch that guy fight from now till he retires.
And the fact is, he's 37,
Yeah.
And look at what that guy had to put up with before that fight even happened. Just, in the canceling of the public training events, everything. I mean, that guy had to deal with a lot.
Yeah.
I want to go into our Twitter segment real quick before we have to go to break. It's funny because I really look for things. I call it the Twitter segment, but I really look everywhere. I look at forums. I look everywhere.
Right.
Because there's jackasses everywhere. They need correcting.
We see you out there.
It's funny. There's a guy, Fight for Your Rights, on Stephan Bonner. I mean, clearly the guy's a little upset that they picked Stephan Bonner for Silva. He says, really, Silva? You said you wouldn't even fight at 205. So instead of fighting a threat like Weidman at middleweight, you decided to fight a similar fighter to Griffin. God, this is just bad. I'm going to be rooting for Stephan Bonner now. I think it's I understand the frustration there.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anybody could say that he's wrong. I mean, we'll talk about Chris Weidman in the next show, but what a disappointment that is in terms of a mismatch up there.
The problem is why I know that they're trying to make a big fight, down there and everything, but why would you have him go up to 205? You have guys at 185 that are ready to fight him. Why move Silva up? It makes no sense to me.
Well, because he's doing a short term without the belt. I mean, that benefits him
though?
and help.
I also wonder if part of the equation or bonus, if you will, is the fact that I don't know exactly what Anderson Silva's walking around at, but the fact is he doesn't have to cut any weight. He could literally just go in and do his thing.
But it does nothing.
But it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And against Bonner, with much respect to Bonner,
props to him for taking that fight.
Yeah.
But when this fight's over, if Silva wins, everybody goes, of course he won. He's supposed to win. If Bonner wins, what happens then?
Well, then Silva lost a fight at 205, still holds the belt at 185, and walks around and just says, hey, I took one for the team.
So then why have him go up to 205?
Well, but here's the reason why is because you got the main fight tonight, John Jones versus Vitor Belfort. All Vitor's talking about is you got to step up. I'm old school.
Right.
I'm a guy who will fight anybody, anytime, any place. And I'll tell you right now, honestly, is that I'm looking at Stephan Bonner, I'm looking at Anderson, and they're both doing the exact same thing. They're stepping up for the UFC to say, look, we need to make these fights big. It's going to be in Rio, for God's sake. That's going to have a draw just with Anderson's name all over it.
Interesting idea.
It's a fight that does nothing to advance anything, though. It does
Very
nothing.
true.
It does nothing.
Maybe,
And there's so many other fights that could be made at 185. It's just like a big. We just lose 8 months or 6 months or whatever.
I say this fight advances the UFC and Brazil, but it doesn't do anything for any weight class,
No.
any
For
titles,
fans
any
at all.
fighters.
That's
just
what
to
it's
see it.
about, though. For me, that's what it's
about Brazil, I think.
Well,
It's
that's
really,
for me. It's not about Brazil. For me, it's about advancing the weight classes and the titles and all that.
No,
and
that's
this
what it
does
should be.
nothing. What this does is it kind of almost sets us back a little bit.
No,
It
does.
gives you something to see, though. I mean, it's kind of like watching the Randy Couture versus boxer guy named off the top of my head.
James Toney.
James Toney. It's one of those fights. It's like once in a while you got to have a circus fight.
Yeah.
It could
that
be.
fight was to shut up all the boxers that said I could come in and win. That's it. That fight actually served a purpose. That was to shut all those guys up that said they could beat guys in the
And
UFC.
that was nice to see, wasn't it?
It
Not?
was
beautiful.
There's another guy out there, MMA Roasted. He actually has a couple little anecdotes. Kind of big on anecdotes. They're not Mauro Ranallo anecdotes, but he says Greg Jackson just canceled the NHL preseason. I don't know if you guys knew that. Or he got the NHL preseason canceled. He also says Joe Rogan received his black belt in shouting. I'm personally a fan of Joe Rogan shouting, especially.
I am too.
Yes.
Especially if you guys have had the displeasure of going to Mandalay Bay and hearing their crummy sound system. It's Joe Rogan's yelling that actually makes it possible for me to hear what's going on. So I got no problem.
I'll tell you what Joe Rogan does not do. He does not write out his lines and then
No.
try and cram them into the fight broadcast like
No.
somebody else does.
No,
But
he's fantastic.
I do think at the end of the show they have to replace all the speakers from his shouting though.
They might, and you know what? The Mandalay Bay, they could use some replacing
They could use
anyway.
them.
Yeah.
Lou DiBella, he tweets at Oscar De La Hoya. He says, "Hey Canelo, you want to come out and play?" They're hinting at a possible Sergio Canelo fight. I'm just of the opinion that Canelo's chin isn't proven like Chavez Jr., but he's a much better technician. I think he's got better physical tools. I love the idea of this fight. I'm really on top of any marketable fights in boxing. I like to see some marketable fights besides Pacquiao Marquez again, which
Yeah.
by the way,
on.
which
Who
I got to get to the.
cares?
It's funny because the Pacquiao Marquez, I had to throw out ticket prices on there because I couldn't believe that they had the
Yeah, you wrote those down.
audacity.
What are they?
200 to sit up top, and you can only have 2 per person. There's a limit. They go all the way down to anywhere from 4, 6, 900 to 1,200 ringside. I mean, can you imagine that? Where do you get the nerve to charge? I'll tell you where you get the nerve. You got to pay Pacquiao a guaranteed $26 million. That's where you get the nerve.
I will say that the diehard fans, man. I mean,
They'll pay.
They'll pay.
They'll pay.
My dad's a
Really?
diehard fan. I was in Vegas. He paid for me and the family to go just because he wanted to have everyone there. Like they love boxing, diehard old schools.
Pacquiao Marquez 4? Does anybody what? Okay, so Pacquiao wins. What is everybody's, big deal?
Right.
You know,
They're like,
Marquez wins. What do? Let's go for 5?
5. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really about a cash grab. And if you listen to the music starting, well, that takes us to the end of our Twitter segment. We're not going to listen to anything anybody says now. No, I'm only kidding. We got to break down some fights. I'm actually really excited. It's been forever since we got to talk about gambling and fights, so I'm really excited about that. PFPsports.com. We're doing some live streaming right now. We're going to do another show completely different right afterwards, so tune in, PFPsports.com. Coming up next, UFC 152 breakdown, and for you junkies out there, take it to the book. This is ESPN Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's our last and favorite segment. I got to turn it over to Ralph real quick. He's got something he wants to tell you all about.
Yeah, everybody out there, if you're in San Diego or LA area and you get locked up for whatever reason, and I mean driving down the road and the cop takes you to the jailhouse there, make sure that you look up Empire Bail Bonds or empirebailca.com. They're located at 7745 El Cajon Boulevard, Suite 1, San Diego, California 91942. Look for Jaime at empirebail.com. His phone number, you might want to write this down because when you're locked up, you don't have too many ways to actually look it up, is 619-249-3825. And I'll tell you what, they'll get your feet back on the street, especially when you get locked up for some dumb stuff. Make sure to look him up and look at our show for the links to his site.
Beautiful. I couldn't think of a better sponsor for our demographic, especially after a night of drinking and watching fights all night.
Don't go downtown Friday or Saturday or take this number.
I also want to throw out the fact that we're doing a live stream right now, pfpsports.com. Check us out right after the show. We're still going to be on, same website, doing a totally different show, so give us a look. We're going to break down some fights real quick. I just want to throw this out real quick just for honorable mention sort of thing. Igor Pokrayek, I'm a big fan of this guy. He looks like a crow cop that's not a one-trick pony. He's a nice up-and-coming fighter. He's fighting Vinny Magalhaes. He was the guy that was brought in the Shale Sona camp. He's a second-degree black belt under your boy, Hoyler Gracie.
The
great Hoyler Gracie.
Oh, yes.
And Magalhaes making his MMA debut against a monster in Pokrayek. Pokrayek's already proven in the UFC, and he's stretching fools. So it's going to be a real technical, great test for Vinny Magalhaes. We'll see what happens there. We're going to go to one of the other fights on the prelim card. TJ Grant, 18-5 versus Evan Dunham. I think this is a real good fight. It's pretty even here as far as the two guys are concerned. Great wrestling, great ground game for both. For me, we just got to watch out and see how what pace is TJ Grant going to set. Grant's going to use his length. He's gonna make Dunham fight his fight, and I think he's going to utilize that guard, and he's got to win on takedowns. I think that could be the difference in this fight. As far as my pick, I got to give a slight edge to Grant. He's just got a little more experience. He could finish the fight in more places, and I'm predicting this is either going to be a great ground fight or a straight up slugfest if the takedowns aren't effective early on. So I'm going TJ Grant. Who do you got, Jason?
Well, TJ, he's coming off a couple big wins against Prater and Shane Roller. His last fight was in May. Evan Dunham, this is to me such a pick 'em fight.
Yeah.
He's won his last 2, but his last fight was in January, and the only reason I'm picking TJ Grant is the fact that Dunham has had a longer layoff, and I'm a believer in ring rust too. And since he hasn't been fighting since January, TJ Grant's fought a little more recently. I'm going with Grant, and that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Dunham out there. I think that Dunham's going to take it. 7 months is enough time to call it ring rust, but I still think that 7 months is enough time to actually say that he's been training. He's still loose and limber. The joints aren't solid like they would be if you stopped for a year or so.
Excellent point. And you know what? I would not be surprised to see either guy. I mean, Dunham's no joke either. That takes us into our first fight on the main card. I'm actually a huge fan of this fight. And anybody that saw the weigh-ins, Charles Oliveira, Cub Swanson, take a look at Oliveira. He looks stellar against Jonathan Brookins and Eric Wisely. Just 2 brutal wins. Swanson, the same thing. I mean, his last fight, he looked fantastic. He may be realizing his full potential at this point in time. I really think at the end of the day, Charles Oliveira, he's going to use his striking. He could change levels. He can end this fight anywhere it goes. I think for that reason, it's a tough fight. It's close to a pick 'em in my opinion, but I'm going a slight edge. Charles Oliveira, he's just on another level right now. Scary.
Cub Swanson's been a bit of an enigma in his career.
Sure.
He looks really good, and then he'll just look really bad.
Hit and miss.
Exactly. He beat Ross Pearson impressively. I thought Ross Pearson was going to just take care of him, and he was impressive over him.
Absolutely.
Charles Oliveira, his only 2 losses were to Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller. No slouches at all.
No.
2 really good fighters. Coming off that big win, like you said, off
Brookins.
of Brookins. Oliveira, he didn't make weight his first time up. Did he end up coming back and stepping back up there and ended up making weight?
I believe that he did.
Now I'm wondering if that's going to affect him in the fight. That kind of worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
The fact that he did everything he couldn't make weight. He had to get back off and do even more.
It's like looking at the ponies before the big race.
Exactly.
Excellent point. Ralph, I'm sorry.
I'm still going to pick Charles Oliveira.
Going with Oliveira.
Yeah.
I love the pick.
I'm actually going to go with Cub Swanson on this one, and it's only because Oliveira actually did look more dehydrated than Cub Swanson at the moment. So that's what I'm going with.
It's an excellent pick, man. He's pulling a page out of Darren's book, going against the grain on every fight like that. Unbelievable.
Got to keep it interesting.
Matt Hamill, 11-4. He comes off the shelf after a little over a year layoff. He actually retired. Comes in, fights a new guy, Roger Hollett. Hollett, like I said, coming in, he actually kind of reminds me of a Hector Lombard. He stands really upright, looking to land that one big shot. Octagon debut. It's really hard for me. Is it the newcomer? What does he bring? How bad is Matt Hamill in the ring rust? He retired. He said he was in a lot of pain. I don't understand why the comeback, but he came back nonetheless. I'm going to go with the hammer.
Yeah.
It's very hard, very tough fight, but I just think the upright, standing up, he's either going to get taken down or he's going to get caught with a right hand. I got to go with Hamill.
Hamill's been off since August of 2011. He's actually fought some really big guys. Hollett, he's on a 5-fight winning streak, making his Octagon debut. Always interesting how that works out for people. Sometimes they get the jitters, sometimes they don't.
You never know.
I love Matt Hamill's dirty boxing. That is one of the
excellent.
He's a great wrestler, but he really good at the dirty boxing. And I'm going with my heart. I've always been a Hamill fan. I'm going with my heart. I'm picking Matt Hamill.
Beautiful.
I got to say, I don't want to go with Matt Hamill in this. The ring rust there is taking it out. I think that Hollett, the Hulk, is going to actually take this one. And against the grain, I got to keep doing it, dude. Matt Hamill's he's a great fighter, man, but he's never showed his true potential as a guy. He stood up with some of the best. He's definitely taken some beatings like some of the best. I mean, John Jones, hey guy. And I'm just going to say, I think that Matt Hamill's you leave the game at that
Matt Hamill
early.
beat John Jones via disqualification.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. We should be undisputed, unchallenged champion tonight.
He stopped that razor sharp elbow with his face pretty good, didn't he?
Are you guys familiar with the
Wins
reason
the win,
why
baby.
that's a disqualification? Is because the actual
This is
commission.
the angle. It was a stupid. It was a
come
straight
straight
hairs.
The reason why it's illegal, and this is for anybody out there who wants to know the rule of MMA, why John Jones has a loss tonight, is because he was doing a 12-6 elbow, and somebody on the actual commission, when they made this illegal, said that it was illegal because they were watching karate tournaments where they break ice like this, and they thought it was too dangerous to people. But however, there's no difference in pressure coming left to right or up to down.
I think they're talking more when you come up and down it, you're hitting more with the point, and when you come over the top it, you're hitting more of the forearm. I think that's why.
Room for interpretation there.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with we got 3 more fights. Michael Bisping, Brian Stan. Bisping, 15 fights in the octagon. He had a controversial loss to Chael Sonnen. He could be 5-0 in his last 5. Brian Stan, he's coming out of Jackson's at the end. Almost to the end of the show.
2 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna have to shorten this up a little bit. I'm going Bisping.
I'm going Bisping too. I think he's still looking for a signature win in his career, and this might be it.
Ralph, who you got?
Bisping's trying to make everyone follow him, and he's trying to be like the next Chael Sonnen. I'm going with Brian Stan.
Next, I'm going Benavidez, Demetrius Johnson. I'm picking Demetrius Johnson just because I'm convinced he can push the faster pace. Going to be hard to catch. I think he's going to be the busier fighter. Going Johnson.
I like Demetrius Johnson better, but I'm picking Joseph Benavidez. I think he's going to win.
Oh, I thought I was going to be with you guys. I'm going Demetrius Johnson. Mighty Mouse. You're the man.
I like Demetrius Johnson. That takes us into our final fight. Vitor Belfort, John Jones. Can't count Vitor out. Would not be surprised to see him win by knockout. However, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the size and the just the technique and skill of John Jones is going to be a little bit too much in this fight. I got to go John Jones. Going Chalk.
Yeah, I'm going John. I'm picking John Jones. I think that's who's going to win. I think he needs to look great. I think there's a lot of people down on him right now. I think he needs to have an impressive win. I think his win over Rashad was unimpressive. I think it was because he was nervous. He fought a little bit safe. I need to see him come out and really do something against Vitor Belfort.
Good point.
I'm going Belfort. I already got $100 on him.
I love it. Takes us into our Take It to the Book section. I'm going a nice little five-legger. Igor Prokhrayev, Charles Oliveira, Michael Bisping, Demetrius Johnson, and John Jones. Throw a C note on that. You're going to get a better than a 10-1 payout. Jason, what's your picks for the week?
Well, you know, this is funny because these are both people that I actually picked to lose. But if I'm betting, I'm going big or I'm going home. I'm going Vitor Belfort at. He actually started out at plus 500. And he's now at plus 550. Demetrius Johnson was at a plus 210. He's now at a plus 200. You put them on a two-fight card, $100 to win $18.50.
18-1. That's ballsy, man. I love it. Real quick, I want to close out the show. Check us out, pfpsports.com. We're doing another show right after this. You can check us out on Facebook, Pound for Pound Sports Show. Make sure you hit like. I'm at Nick, PFP Sports. Where can we find you guys?
You can find me at LB Host, but you really want to follow Darren at Darren PFP Sports.
And you're Ralph at PFP Sports on Twitter.
I love it. Producer, we got any more time? Or are we out of here? I think a couple more seconds. Well, that takes us to the end of the show. Praise be to the Most High. That ain't no lie. We'll be right back with another show. Make sure you guys don't miss us.
Keep streaming, guys. Follow us.
Take care.
PFPsports.com.